Now, it's been 32 years since the Sikh genocide, and year in, year out here on BBC Radio London, Sunny and I have discussed the events which took place in 1984. Now, you may be tuning into Radio London and feel it's because we happen to be Punjabi. That's not actually the case. It's because over the past 32 years, London has always been the hub for vigils and campaigns with regards to the Sikh genocide, which took place in 1984. If you're not aware, what happened was over 30,000 people were killed. Thousands were displaced throughout India during the uprisings in 1984. And chillingly, children as old as 13 days of age were roasted alive on gas stoves in Kanpur. Now, many millions of Sikhs around the world are holding vigils and protests because they still believe that justice has not been served. And today, right now, a vigil is taking place in Southall. The vigil actually has begun and is taking place at Southall Park Avenue, Gurdwara, and millions of Sikhs across the world are using social media to bring up this discussion with regards to hashtag Remember 1984. And Sikhs across the country have decided to come specifically to London with regards to this vigil. Joining us in the studio to give us a little bit more of an understanding as to why, even now in 2016, second generation, third generation British Sikhs are still very much involved and discussing the Sikh genocide. We have Gurcharan Singh, who is working with the UK Dal Khalsa to plan the vigils across the world, including the one that's happening in West London. Gurcharan, thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate, obviously, you've had to leave the vigil to be here, so thank you so much. Why is it even now, and I guess this is the most important question, I have tried to give as much context as I can for anyone who's not aware of what happened in 1984. Why is it even today that we have Sikhs who have been born and brought up in this country, some of them third generation, no affiliation with moving back to India, living in India, perhaps have never even visited Punjab, are still deciding to hold this vigil with regards to the genocide that took place in 1984?
The thing with the history is you must learn from history
Yes.
to have a brighter future. If you fail to learn from history, you are going to repeat it again and again. And the biggest issue which we have to consider is that it's been 30 odd years, but we were hoping, and there was a hope that the situation should have improved. But what we have seen in India is that situation has actually worsened. And regime after regime, India is moving into a direction of becoming a theocracy. The idea of the regime is moving towards the philosophy of Hindutva, turning India into a Hindu state, which could only be described as a move towards...
So let me ask you this. We were talking about Punjab, where most Sikhs are, where we come from, I guess.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Now, do they have their own governing state in Punjab?
No.
So who is running Punjab at the moment?
The union, if you see India as a union,
if we look at it as a union, we do see it as a union. But then each state has their own governors, right?
That's what I'm trying
so
to
now, who's governing India, Punjab at the moment?
India has a very complicated political structure.
Okay, so when you say there's an organisation, and when we're talking about they all want to do, they're all getting together to make this a Hindu
state,
Hindu state, then there's different states of all over India who are all conspiring to do this.
No. Look, when we're talking about the idea of a Hindu state or turning Indian fascism, what it is there's this whole world is of Sangh Parivar, RSS, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh.
Right.
What we have to remember, the current Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, is a lifelong member of this organization and is a committed follower of this philosophy of Hindutva.
That. But then when we talk about the democracy and the biggest democracy, we celebrate it here in this country and saying that India is the biggest country that exercises that democratic right to go and vote. And as a result, I know that I have family in Punjab. They vote when it's a Punjab elections and when it's Haryana, they also vote there. And when they're looking for a new Prime Minister of India, we covered it here on this very show and saying that, look, this is a landslide. This guy is getting votes from everywhere. They're getting it from the Sikhs, they're getting it from, he's actually uniting the country. So my question is that, this is happening, and you make a statement here that saying that this is a conspiracy to a certain degree to have everyone fall under the same lines, which I get where you're coming from. But then if you have a governing state, if you are able to vote in the people who are going to run your state where predominantly they are Sikhs, why can't we then start from our state of Punjab and then say, listen, we've got that in order. Now we can actually address the rest of India. Because I don't live in India.
Yep.
I don't live in Punjab. I live here in the United Kingdom. And I can only be told by what my family are telling me from back home and the news that we report on here on BBC, on the BBC News website, widely covered the genocide.
The problem when we're talking about the Indian political structure is what we are missing is the RSS. The RSS itself has more trained fighters than the Indian army. It has more media personnel within the Indian media structure than the media itself.
Okay.
It has more penetrated the police, the intelligence. What we have to realize when we're talking about the Indian state, the Hindu extremists have actually taken over completely the structures and working of that state. So this idea, when you talk about democracy and election, in the presence of RSS, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, it becomes a very, very difficult task to have exercised your democratic rights. For example, I'll give you an example. The Indian military, since Modi has come into power, were questioning the things he was doing, especially to the Indian army, within the Indian army, because he was trying to introduce this. He is introducing Hindutva within the Indian army now. So what they did was there was few high-ranking officers, they questioned that. What Modi and the Hindu fanatics did, they chose a Muslim serving army officer. Hindu extremists went to his house, killed his father, and they put it on main Indian news, and nothing happened to the perpetrators.
So I've got to come in for a moment, because I think, unfortunately, we don't have any of those political parties, or even Modi for that matter, who can come back to defend himself or verify himself. What you're talking about, though, to bring it back to kind of relevant and what we have and the fact that we have is political rights for minority people. And obviously within India, Sikhs are a minority. Not just Sikhs, you have Jewish communities living in India, you have Christians living in India. And is this very much now about no longer trying to move forward from what happened in 1984 to look at the political rights of Sikhs who are living there?
The thing is, we have to really consider what is the main reason why there has not been justice for us. And the main reason is that the system itself, entirely, the Indian Union itself, is based on the political ideology of Hindutva. And until that is addressed, we will have this situation and again, because we are living in 2016 and we have these fascist goons running around. Now, the Indian Christian organization have come out this year and said there's one church being attacked every day by Hindu extremists.
Let me come back to you on that. We're just going to go to some news and we're going to come back to you and get your final thoughts.
We're going to get some travel, actually. We will get Gurjalan's final perspectives on this. I think this is one of those discussions which ultimately, as I just said, we would unfortunately not be able to verify some of the facts. And of course, any attacks that take place in India are always covered on the news as well. But we'll come back and get perspectives from what Gurjalan's talking about with regards to the vigil which is taking place in Southall to remember the Sikh genocide which took place in 1984. Right now, though, it's 7:15. Let's get the traffic and travel with Fiona McKinnon.
Welcome back to BBC Radio London. You are listening to Sunny and Shay. If there's anything that we talk about in these 2 hours, if you feel that you want to partake in the conversation, feel free to pick up the phone and give us a ring. 0207 224 2000 is the number. Now,
in this half an hour of the show, we have been discussing a vigil which is taking place in West London. Currently, it's been 32 years since the Sikh genocide. Over 30,000 people were killed in India, all Sikh, and there were over 2,000 people displaced across India during the uprisings in 1984. Chillingly, children as old as 13 days of age were roasted alive on gas stoves in Kanpur, and millions of Sikhs around the world are holding vigils today and also protest because they still believe that justice has not been served. Two aspects to these vigils. First one is that it's important, if you go to social media, you'll be able to see the details of hashtag Remember 1984. As they say, in order for history not to repeat itself, we do not want to forget it. The other side as well is that for many Sikhs living in London, they feel that justice has not been served and that things are possibly getting worse under the Modi regime. Now, joining us in the studio to give us more of an understanding as to what is taking place in Southall and why this vigil is happening and why thousands of people have come from across the country to West London to hold this vigil, we've been speaking to Gurcharan Singh, who is working with Dal Khalsa UK. They actually plan the vigils across the world, as well as the one happening in Southall. Gurcharan, just before we went to the travel, you were giving us some context as to, obviously, the political climate in India. I did mention the fact that we're here. We can't, unfortunately, report as to every single thing that has happened, which a lot of Sikhs claim. Some may be false, some may be true. But if we can talk about the future just for a second, what do you and your organisation, Dal Khalsa UK, hope to happen from holding these vigils year in, year out? It's taken place in London over the past 32 years. We've had thousands of Sikhs who year in, year out will protest. Even during Vaisakhi, which is the Sikh New Year, you will see on a religious day, Sikhs still wanting to talk about what happened 32 years ago. What are your hopes for the future?
I think our hope is that we have to realize that the political rights of the Sikh people and political rights of Punjab are essential, because we have seen the Indian Union and the regime within the Union deteriorate away step by step, day by day, towards this idea of Hindutva. And I think the Union itself and the RSS is actually threatening the core, the Union itself at the moment, because not only Punjab, there is, for example, I'll give you another example, is of Kashmir. We have all heard and seen what's happening in Kashmir. What we have to understand with the concept of Kashmir is, it is not as is seen in Kashmir. The Indian media is reporting that they are responding to agitation. This is not a response to an agitation, what the Indian regime is doing in Kashmir. They are systematically trying to get a demographic change in Kashmir. They want to convert entire Kashmir into a Hindu state. For example, now we are talking about Indian cabinet ministers are openly going on the stages of the RSS, Shiv Sena and Bajrang Dal and saying that they are going to convert entire Kashmir and population of Kashmir to Hinduism through force. And this is what we are seeing happening in Kashmir. This idea that somehow they are opposing some sort of political agitation or people asking for their right for self-determination is a complete fraud. The Indian regime is pushing this political ideology of Hindutva through the barrel of gun to the people of Kashmir. Okay.
We're joined by Rupinder, who's called in tonight. Rupinder's got in touch with the show in Wanstead. Rupinder, thanks for getting in touch. What's your perspective with regards to the Sikh genocide of 1984?
Good evening to all companies. Sunny Shay's first time I'm talking to you.
Welcome to the show. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to begin with 1984, starting with Sri Mata Pinderwale. I don't know if that rings any bells.
It does. It does.
Pinderwale.
Yes.
Pinderwale was our martyr. He was our son. You can ask any Sikh, go to any Gurdwara and talk to him about Pinderwale, and his picture would be there. And he was obviously, due to political instigation at the time by Operation Blue Star.
Because we covered this, what you're just saying right now, we covered this on the show last year as well, and is very much well documented. But when we talk about what the climate is today, and we move forward 30 odd years now, we're here and we are doing vigils and we're still not finding justice, and this is what our guest is saying as well. Where do you stand today moving forward?
Moving forward, right. Bharatiya Janata Party of India, the Hindu Nationalist Party, and how they became into power through they were elected into government quite fairly. I agree on that point. But unfortunately, due to sort of diplomatic constraints, if you like, from the Muslim side of things, Sikh side of things, and the Hindu side of things. Three majority religion of India. And it has its implications in Kashmir as well. But basically, we're not going to chuck out BJP any more than we can throw out Hinduism from India. The legend of the religion of Hinduism in itself is half the reason tourists even fly there to begin with. From an intelligent standpoint.
Yeah.
And obviously from a Muslim standpoint, they fly there for the equal same reason, and the same reason Sikh.
Yeah.
So we depend on foreign capital to finance our country. And make it grow, and equally, internally, it has its own economic
I can see where you're coming from, Rupinder. The fact is, if we talk about all of the majority largest religions in the world, they are very much celebrated and found within India. Do you believe now, 32 years on, though, that Sikhs need to come together? But it's not just about Sikhs; it's about all communities, especially from India,
I mean,
Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslims.
I'm Sikh myself. I also have some Muslim heritage, but at the end of the day, being Sikh, I'm talking about Guru Nanak. Both his parents were Hindu. If you look back in the history textbook, so you could call myself a hybrid of sorts. But my point being is that Sikhs cannot forget death very easily. We need to remember death. We need to embrace death. That's how we live. We live through our ancestry's eyes. Once you've lost something, you've lost it for life. It doesn't mean you have to seek vengeance. Vengeance will destroy our country.
Okay,
I think Rupinder, that's a very important point, is the fact that we need
don't
to
be a
come
stranger.
together.
Thank you so much
for
your
your
call.
again in the future. Thanks for your call, Rupinder. Gurjaran, what do you say to that? The fact that, very clearly Rupinder is saying we can't forget, but we need to come together. If I'm honest with you, there may be people tuning into Radio London who
probably
do not
lost in
know,
this conversation.
who are lost in the conversation, who do not know much about the tensions between what happened in 1984 between these two faiths, between Hindus and Sikhs, and how, unfortunately, through the effects of 1984, even to this day, families have not received justice of those 30,000 people that were killed in India. Is this also about, though, you've got this vigil which is taking place now in Southall. Yep. Is it about Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, if you're Indian, just coming together to try to move this discussion point forward? You've talked a lot about the political rights. Surely that shouldn't matter what your religion is.
I think what you have to realize when you're saying the tensions were between Hindus and Sikh, I think what you're missing is that the fundamentalists in India are merely using Hinduism as a cover.
Okay.
To implement their fanaticism and their fascism. And this is something which we must understand. In a sense, the concept of Hinduism, where the RSS is using it, they are merely using it as a cover to put through their fascism onto the people. This idea that somehow this is a Hindu-Sikh thing, I think we have to go away from it. Because the thing is, majority of people in India are opposed to this ideology of Hindutva. But the issue when it comes to Sikhs, especially us, we are the sole voice which is opposing this fascism.
Can I also ask you this question as well?
Yeah.
When we talk about our sole voice, and I go back to the state of Punjab again, because this is something I can relate to and something you can relate to as well. And if we're going to ever make a stand, that's where we would, because there's a majority of Sikhs there. Why can't we politically do something there?
Okay.
Why are we hindering? Because I asked you this question in the beginning as well, that we have votes in Punjab, and we can vote in a different minister of Punjab, and if he's on the same wavelength as most of Punjab, then why can't we make that change? If Punjab doesn't want that change, if the majority of Punjab is saying, no, we like the guy in charge, I like these people who are doing amazing job for for us and our well-being, then these other guys who are on the fringes, they can keep protesting all they want, because we don't want that change.
First things, as far as BJP or the RSS is concerned, the current regime, Punjab voted against them, first things. And Punjab also voted against the Indian National Congress. So these are the Indian parties are rejected by Punjab completely. Now, what we are left with, the biggest political problem which Sikhs are, or generally Punjabis are having, is that whenever Punjab tries to get organized. It's political right. For example, now we're talking where they're organizing this massive meeting of Sarbat Khalsa, where they're thinking of having over, say, about 1 million or so people.
Yeah.
But the problem, what we're seeing just today, all the activists part of organizing that have been arrested by the state. And then the Indian state is going out and saying we are a democracy. Now, the Hindus are supporting that that gathering. The Muslims have come out supporting that gathering. The Christians have, everybody, and even the left-wing organizations and the Aam Aadmi Party of Punjab, all of them have come out and supported that gathering. But what we have seen today is all the activists who were part of organizing that political structure for the betterment of Punjab, the rights of Punjab, they've been arrested. And what are their, let's see, you see, India tried to be progressive. Let's see the demands of the people who are organizing this current gathering. Well, they want freedom of movement from one Punjab to the other. They want freedom of trading. They want trade deals which expand more than just India, because for Punjab, one of our biggest problems of becoming a more of a privileged state is we are unable to trade with our brothers over the border because of restrictions. Because I wouldn't say restriction. I would say Hindu fanaticism. Okay. Because that is the barrier which is dividing Punjab into two pieces. It is not people of Punjab who don't want to cross the border and go to Nankana Sahib. It is this fanatic ideology which just hates the concept of anything which is not in line with their Indian fascism.
I think it's a riveting conversation, Gurjan, and I appreciate you coming in to explain what is ultimately a very complicated.
Yeah, you can't do it in half an hour. You just can't do it in half an hour.
And I must at this point as well say we've not had the other side of the point, exactly. And we don't have those political parties here to defend themselves. But nonetheless, you've come in very much on the basis of the vigil that is taking place in Southall. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
And also, if you would like further details, if you want to understand about these vigils, which by the way are taking place across the world, millions of Sikhs are remembering the Sikh genocide of 1984, but ultimately, as Gurcharan Singh says, the political implications which are still happening now within Punjab, then you can go to the Facebook page Dal Khalsa UK. That is spelled DAL, new word KHALSA UK. Coming up in the next half an hour of the show, we're going to be talking about how Londoners are making a big impact on the online world through YouTube. Right now, though, it is 7:30. Let's get the news headlines with Moira Alderson, followed by the traffic and travel with Fiona McKinnon.